even corrections. I see Bhima Prabhu is here. Bhima Prabhu, are you available for corrections? Unsolicited advice? Okay, good. He's available. All right, good. Okay, we're good to go, Acyuta Gopi. Hare Krishna.
I like what you said, militant about about it. You have.
You said that. You said that.
I am.
That's what.
It's an
Good.
intense personality. It's true. Without further ado, so that we can dive right into our ocean of good fortune, which is this beautiful, glorious day of Ekadashi. We can start immediately. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adigaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I was reflecting on what I wanted, or what I thought this lecture should revolve around. And of course, today is also Gita Jayanti. It is the advent of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And I know I can speak for myself, but I know for many, many people who were not somehow born through an entire lineage of generations and generations of Vaishnav devotees, many of our spiritual lives began with Bhagavad Gita in some way, shape, or form. And for me, there was always, the big push towards Gita Jayanti, especially even in Sunday school. So growing up, come learn the verses, recite them, have a whole talent show of it. Let's make dramas about different verses of Bhagavad Gita. And so I feel like Bhagavad Gita has been such an integral part of my life for as long as I can remember. And so when I was thinking about Bhagavad Gita and trying to structure this lecture, I kind of decided, actually, maybe I need to let Krishna take the wheel on this one. Maybe I have to allow what maybe he wants to come through. And even this morning, as I was reflecting on the pastime behind the Ekadashi and behind Bhagavad Gita, what struck me was the mercy of Krishna's devotees. And throughout Bhagavad Gita, the mercy of Krishna's devotees, the compassionate hearts of Krishna's devotees. And when I am chanting the holy names or singing in kirtan, and I'm constantly praying to the holy name for service, because so many times that meaning can be lost on me. I can forget that it is a constant call to be in the service of the holy name. Krishna loves devotees with compassionate, soft as butter hearts, because this compassion really comes directly from Srimati Radharani, comes from his own internal potency. And so being under the shelter of Krishna's internal potency, which I hope and I think and I pray that we are all trying to accomplish, being under the shelter of Krishna's internal potency means that our hearts are going to have to become softer and softer and softer with compassion. This is our Srila Prabhupada. This is a heart melting and on fire simultaneously with compassion, taking up a thankless task of leaving a very set life in Vrindavan, and set in every single way. Spiritually, there was no reason for him to leave Vrindavan and come to this God-forsaken place, to make it now less God-forsaken, to try and help us remember that we have an unvanquishable relationship with Krishna already. Our iOS, our internal operating system, just needs a little bit of an update, of a reboot. And so there was no personal motive in him going through 39 days on a cargo ship. There's no personal motive on enduring heart attacks and health ailments and so many different things. There was nothing personal that he had to gain from all of this. This was not a get-rich-quick scheme for him. This was not a popularity contest for him. There was no reason for him to have been practicing giving lectures, even while staying in Vrindavan. It is an unimaginable task. And so many of us can be at the threshold of such a task, in big and small and medium-sized ways. Every day in our lives, Krishna is asking us, will you rise to the challenge? What will you do for me? Arjuna was being asked similarly. Arjuna, what will you do for me? Will you surrender with all that this entails? So, before we get into bringing Bhagavad Gita in, let's hear about the pastime of this Ekadashi, Mokshada Ekadashi. Of course, as usual, we begin with Yudhishthira Maharaj asking the Supreme Personality of Godhead whatever he wants, which is already a great benediction. Yudhishthira Maharaj said, O Vishnu, master of all, O delight of the three worlds, O Lord of the entire universe, O creator of the world, O oldest personality, O best of all beings, I offer my most respectful obeisances unto you, O Lord of lords. For the benefit of all living entities, kindly answer some questions that I have. What is the name of the Ekadashi that occurs during the light fortnight of the month of Margashirsha, November-December, and removes all sins? How does one observe it properly? And which deity is worshipped on that holiest of days? O my Lord, please explain this to me in full. Lord Shri Krishna replied, O dear Yudhishthir, your inquiry is very auspicious in itself and will bring you fame. Wow, just by asking questions. Just as I previously explained to you about the dearest Utpana Mahadwadashi, which occurs during the dark part of the month of Margashirsha, which is the day when Ekadashi Devi appeared from my body to kill the demon Mura, and which benefits everything animate and inanimate in the three worlds. So I shall now relate to you regarding this Ekadashi that occurs during the light part of the month of Margashirsha. This Ekadashi is famous as Mokshada because it purifies the faithful devotee of all sinful reactions and bestows liberation upon him. The worshipable deity of this all-auspicious day is Lord Damodar. With full attention, one should worship him with incense, a ghee lamp, fragrant flowers, and tulsi manjaris, or tulsi buds. And of course, as we know from hanging out with Krishna for as long as we've been hanging out with him, if you don't have any of these things, an offering in the mind also still works. O best of saintly kings, please listen as I narrate to you the ancient and auspicious history of this wonderful Ekadashi. Simply by hearing this history, one can attain the merit earned by performing a horse sacrifice. By the influence of this merit, one's forefathers, mothers, sons, and other relatives who have gone to hell can turn around and go to the heavenly kingdom. For this reason alone, O king, you should listen with a rapt attention to this narration. There once was a beautiful city named Champak Nagar, which was decorated with devoted Vaishnavas. Wow. I feel as though New York is similarly decorated. We might not have a lot of pretty things, and sometimes this city looks externally dirty, but it is decorated with devoted Vaishnavas. Imagine that is the key decoration that any city could ever hope to have, simply to be decorated with devoted Vaishnavas. There, the best of saintly kings, Maharaj Vekansana, ruled over his subjects as if they were his very own dear sons and daughters. The Brahmins in that capital city were all expert in 4 kinds of Vedic knowledge. The king, while ruling properly, had a dream one night in which his father was seen to be suffering the pangs of hellish torture in one of the hellish planets ruled over by Yamaraj. The king was overwhelmed with compassion for his father and shed tears. The next morning, Maharaj Vekanasa described what he had seen in his dream to his council of twice-born learned Brahmins. "O Brahmins," the king addressed them, "in a dream last night I saw my father suffering on a hellish planet. He was crying out in anguish, 'O son, please deliver me from this torment of this hellish condition. Now I have no peace in my mind, and even this beautiful kingdom has become unbearable to me. Not even my horses, elephants, and chariots, and my vast wealth in my treasury that formerly brought so much pleasure, gives me no pleasure at all. Everything, O best of the Brahmins, even my own wife and sons, have become a source of unhappiness since I beheld my father suffering the tortures of that hellish condition so. Where can I go and what can I do, O Brahmins, to alleviate this misery? My body is burning with fear and sorrow.'" Sounds a little bit like Arjuna also. "Please tell me what kind of charity, what mode of fasting, what austerity, or what deep meditation, and in service upon which deity I may have to perform to deliver my father from that agony and bestow upon him liberation, and liberation upon my forefathers. O best among the Brahmins, what is the use of one's being a powerful son if one's father must suffer on a hellish planet? Truly, such a son's life is utterly useless to him and to his forefathers." The twice-born Brahmanas replied, "O king, in the mountainous forest, not far from here, is the ashram where a great saint, Parvat Muni, resides. Please go to him, for he is a Trikalagyani. He knows the past, the present, and the future of everything, and can surely help you in your gaining relief from your misery." Upon hearing this advice, the distressed king immediately set out on a journey to the ashram of the famous sage Parvat Muni. The ashram was indeed very big and housed many learned sages expert in chanting the sacred hymns of the 4 Vedas, the Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Veda. Approaching the holy ashram, the king beheld Parvat Muni seated among the assembly of sages, adorned with hundreds of tilaks from all the authorized sampradayas, like another Brahma or Vyas. Maharaj Vekansa offered his humble obeisances to the Muni, bowing his head and then prostrating his entire body before him. After the king had seated himself among the assembly, Parvat Muni asked him about the welfare of the 7 limbs of his extensive kingdom, his ministers, his treasury, his military forces, his allies, the Brahmins, the sacrificial offerings performed, and the needs of his subjects. The Muni also asked him if his kingdom was free of troubles and whether everyone was peaceful, happy, and satisfied. To these inquiries, the king replied, "By your mercy, O glorious and great sage, all 7 limbs of my kingdom are doing very well. Yet there is a problem that has recently arisen, and to solve it I have come to you, O Brahmin, for your expert help and guidance." Then Parvat Muni, the best of all sages, closed his eyes and meditated on the king's past, present, and future. After a few moments, he opened his eyes and said, "Your father is suffering the results of committing a great sin, and I have discovered what it is. In his previous life, he quarreled with his wife and forcibly enjoyed with her during her menstrual period. She tried to protest and resist his advances and even yelled out, 'Someone please save me. Please, O husband, do not interrupt my monthly cycle in this way. Still, he did not stop or leave her alone. It is on account of this grievous sin that your father now has fallen into such a hellish condition of suffering. King Vekanasa then said, O greatest among sages, by what process of fasting or charity may I liberate my dear father from such a condition? Please tell me how I can relieve and remove the burden of his sinful reactions, which are a great obstacle to his progress toward ultimate release, salvation, liberation, going back home, back to Godhead. Parvat Muni replied, during the light fortnight of the month of Margashirsha, there occurs an Ekadashi called Mokshada. If you observe this sacred Ekadashi strictly, with a full fast, and give directly to your suffering father the merit you thus attained, he will be freed from his pain and instantly liberated. Hearing this, Maharaj Vekansa profusely thanked the great sage and then returned to his palace to perform his vrat, his austere penance. O Yudhishthir, when the light part of the month of Margashirsha at last arrived, Maharaj Vekansa faithfully waited for the Ekadashi Tithi to arrive. He then perfectly and with full faith observed the Ekadashi fast with his wife, children, and other relatives. He dutifully gave the merit from this fast to his father, and as he made the offering, beautiful flower petals showered down from the devas who peered out from behind the clouds in the sky. The king's father was then praised by the messengers of the demigods, the devas, and escorted to the celestial region. As he passed his son, as he traversed the lower to middle to higher planets, the father said to the king, my dear son, all auspiciousness unto you. At last he reached the heavenly realm, from where he can again, with his newly acquired merit, perform devotional service to Krishna or Vishnu, and in due course return back to home, back to Godhead. O son of Pandu, whoever strictly observes the sacred Mokshada Ekadashi, following the established rules and regulations, achieves full and perfect liberation after death. There is no better fasting day than this Ekadashi of the light fortnight of the month of Margashirsha, O Yudhishthir, for it is a crystal clear and sinless day. Whoever faithfully observes this Ekadashi fast, which is like Chintamani, a gem that yields all desires, obtains special merit that is very hard to calculate, for this day can elevate one from hellish life to the heavenly planets, and for one who observes Ekadashi for his own spiritual benefit, this elevates one to go back to Godhead, never to return to this material world. Thus ends the narration of the glories of the Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi, or Mokshada Ekadashi, from the Brahmanda Purana. Shri Ekadashi Devi Ki Jai. So, as I was reading this story, I had a very immediate, intense, kind of visceral reaction that this king decided to save his father from his fate. And then I was thinking about what sin the father had committed. I was kind of a little bit shocked. And for a split second, I felt dismayed that, wow, this king just kind of so easily dismissed what grievous sin the father had done, and he was ready to give all of his earned merit from the Ekadashi and free him from his hellish condition. And then, in the next moment, somehow or other, by the good fortune of Srila Prabhupada, and my own illustrious spiritual master, and Sri Krishna, somehow or other, behind my mind, which was starting this reaction, and then behind my intelligence even, somehow or other, my soul piped up and said, no, you are having this visceral reaction from being in this body, this one female body, and so many bodies before it. But think about it from the position of an eternal soul. Let me think about this from the position of the soul. The king's father was already suffering in hell. And as much as we might like to think that sometimes we can hear it when we're angry or when someone is vengeful, that an aggressor deserves to suffer in these hellish conditions. However, these are terrible situations. These hellish planets are not for the faint-hearted. This is not anything that we can so flippantly cast onto someone else. You know, if we go through simply one hellish condition of life, we are feeling intensely sorrowful. Okay, right? If we get bit by one mosquito that unfortunately happens to have like malaria or some kind of fever or gives us some illness, right? We are going through some illness for 10 days. And we are thinking this is completely hellish. I would never wish this even on my worst enemy. We are thinking all of the things. We are ready to take back any ill will we've cast against anyone at any time, ever. And these are hellish planets. This is more than a flu. This is more than some bodily discomfort brought on by the three modes of material nature. This is material nature at her fiercest. We hear of atrocities that are committed even on this earthly planet, and we think this is horrible. This is a hellish condition. We would never wish this on anyone. We can't allow this to happen anymore. We see it. We become activists at home. We become activists on the internet. We see the suffering of others, and it is supposed to bring out the compassionate nature of our hearts. And so that first visceral reaction, how could the king be so easily, how could the father of the king be so easily excused? And then I realized, actually, I hope and wish and pray that there is always someone ready and compassionate enough to willingly excuse me. Because I cannot even conceive of or imagine how many sinful activities I've performed. This soul has gone through so much. I'm now speaking of my own spirit soul. I've gone through so much. All of us have gone through so much. Sri Krishna within Bhagavad Gita famously says that he is the source of all remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Many people wonder why we cannot remember our past lives. However, my Guru Maharaj says, we can't even handle the trauma from this one life. Can you imagine if Krishna inspired the deep remembrance within us to somehow remember our past lives? The trauma would be unbearable. The traumatic things that we've inflicted on others would be unbearable to live with. I pray that there is always a city decorated with devoted Vaishnavas that will have mercy upon me, that will somehow see my hellish condition of life and say, you know what? Let me find this Mokshada Ekadashi. Let me observe an Ekadashi fast and dedicate my merits to those who are suffering hellish conditions of life. This is something that we can do for the good of this entire planet, because New York City is decorated with devoted Vaishnavas. I see so many of them here in this assembly. It is incredibly amazing, our good fortune. It does not happen by coincidence. This is not by chance. The Lord has been working constantly within our favor and within his own self-interest. Because what does Krishna really want? If one offers me with love and devotion a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water, I will accept it. When Krishna is promising us these things within Bhagavad Gita, do we believe him? There are many verses within Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna says that for one who worships me, who remembers me, who thinks of me with faith, is sure to come to me. I promise you this. There is no doubt. Let there be no doubt. There's so many times within Bhagavad Gita. It's without a doubt, without doubt, this is possible, probable, this is promised. Do we believe him? The key is the faith. And within the 9th chapter of Sri Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that this faith is the foundation and the basis of our spiritual lives. We cannot progress in devotional service without faith. And that faith comes from association with devotees. So now we are coming together each Ekadashi and we are building our faith. We are building a foundation of faith. And with that faith comes believing in what Krishna has promised us, which then makes our hearts melt in compassion because we understand we've been there. We've done it. Most likely because we are still suffering in this material world. But somehow or other, someone somewhere prayed for us. Whether that was someone that we know, whether it was a parent, whether it was a friend, whether it was a sibling, an aunt, a relative, whatever it is, or even Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada extended his prayers to countless souls that, according to our material estimation, he had never even met. He prayed for people that he had no contact with. He prayed for people who were not even fully cognizant of how grateful we should be. On the strength of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada's prayers, we're all here. We've made it to another Ekadashi. We've made it to another Gita Jayanti. Let us shout from the rooftops with joy. Ramanujacharya got one mantra that was able to deliver so many fallen souls, and his guru said, I will give you this mantra on the one condition that you keep it completely secret. Ramanujacharya said, absolutely. And the very next day, he was on the rooftops of the temple yelling this mantra to anyone who could hear it, near, far, and everything in between. His guru was completely upset. I told you to keep it secret. He said, but how can I? Everyone is suffering such a hellish condition of life here. Here, as they are living, they are suffering these hellish conditions of life. But this has the ability to alleviate their suffering. How can I keep it to myself? How can I become a miser of such good fortune? Srila Prabhupada was not a miser. He risked everything just to pray for all of us. It is unfathomable, unconscionable. We were doing everything, everywhere, all at once. And somehow Srila Prabhupada had the compassionate, melting heart to pray for people that everybody else said they don't deserve it. They'll never get it. They'll never catch on. They'll never even understand the essence of the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. Why are you giving this to them? Our Srila Prabhupada has done so much. And he's still so compassionate that he still promises, I will continue to have contact with you. I will speak to you. I will interact with you through these literatures. So many volumes of literature that it is humanly impossible. This has to be the work of the internal energy of Shri Krishna. This has to be the work of some supernatural power. Still so compassionate. And he says, I will continue. Our spiritual masters promise to come to this hellish place again and again and again, as long as there are sincere souls who are willing to simply hear and accept with whatever little faith we can muster in our hearts that message. There is no personal gain anywhere in there. Without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, without the mercy of my parents, without the mercy of my Shiksha and Diksha gurus, without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I would not be among all of you to simply say, look at my good fortune. Look at what's happened to me. I would have been anywhere. I could have been doing anything, which is completely terrifying to think about. If we didn't have Krishna, I would not be able to make it through this life. There's too much happening. We see it every day. We are more connected than ever because we are getting information at the speed of light thanks to the internet. And so we are seeing how people cannot handle living in this material existence. We are seeing it every day so much. It is unbearable. Our minds and intelligence, we cannot hold it. We can't take it. Without Krishna, I'd be completely, absolutely lost. So I hope and I pray that there is always someone willing to somehow disregard all of the sinful activities that I've done in the past, in this life, in whatever future I may hold. That they are willing to be so compassionate hearted that they will say, you know what? I will fast on an Ekadashi for this person. Absolutely. I will give of myself just to allow them to somehow experience Krishna's mercy. What is it that Krishna really wants? I feel as though through so much of Bhagavad Gita, the key in the last chapter is no one is more dear to me than someone who preaches this message, because it takes a compassionate heart to do so. There might not be much personal gain, but there will definitely be personal obstacles. We are choosing a life of voluntary obstacle because the obstacles are going to come no matter what. As Prahlad Maharaj famously says in Bhagavatam, like these things are happening by the workings of material nature. As Shri Krishna even says, happiness and distress are coming like the seasons. You don't have to ask for them. They happen already. However, I hope and I pray that those compassionate hearted souls will always be present. As long as this Bhagavad Gita is present, I pray that there will be some compassionate soul who says, you know what, Mokshada Ekadashi is here, Gita Jayanti is here, let me fast for those souls who are in a hellish condition here, on other planets, anywhere in between. Let me give of myself for those people. Not only does it bring everyone closer to Krishna, but it endears us to Krishna, because that is all Krishna wants. He wants us to have such compassionate hearts. And somehow or other, when we are able to transcend what the mind and intelligence want to tell us, which is only look out for yourself. When the soul somehow pipes up and says, wait, someone did this for me, and this is why we are here today. Let us pay it forward and do it for someone else, everyone else. Then Krishna comes running. Oh, my devotee now is really calling. This is my person. And they remember. They're starting to remember. Because if we remember even a glimpse, a fraction of the effulgence of what it was like to personally interact and have pastimes with Krishna, I guarantee it would probably melt all of our hearts in compassion. All we would want is to remind ourselves and others every moment of every day about our greatest fortune. This is the glory of this Ekadashi. That now, so many of us are looking for a way to change the world. We can do so. simply by observing this Ekadashi fast, according to the rules and regulations set forth by Srila Prabhupada. And we can dedicate this merit to everyone, anywhere, suffering this hellish condition of life in this material world. We can read this Bhagavad Gita today in honor of all of those people. And what Ekadashi Devi loves to do is she takes all the things that we've prayed for others, and she acts as a reflector, and she turns all of those blessings back around on us, but she magnifies them tenfold. So even if we give away the merit, we never lose anything. And whatever we pray for others comes back to us magnified. This is the grace of Ekadashi Devi. This is the glory of Shri Krishna. But more so, this is the glory of Krishna's devotees, who are so compassionate that they are willing to pray for us, however fallen we may be. Thank you so much for praying for me. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Thank you so much for tolerating me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ekadashi Devi ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
New York City is decorated with Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and the Zoom universe is decorated with Acyuta Gopi's classes every Ekadashi. Thank you, Acyuta Gopi. Wonderful. Thanks for leaving time for love and interactions. Who wants to interact with us lovingly? Please unmute yourself. Love is a two-way street. Don't be shy, especially if you're introverted. We want to hear from you. Bhima Prabhu, that's not you. You're the least introverted person on this call.
I'm the tinsel that falls off the tree and is eaten by the cat. That's where I come in as far as the ornamentation goes.
You have some ornaments on your beard. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, Bhima Prabhu. I'm just trying to show you my love. That's all I can come up with. I can't just say I love you, you know. Okay, Jamuna Jaya has her hand up.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful class at Acyuta Gopi. It was just something they said right at the beginning that just really heard it such a different way. We say God forsaken all the time, but actually we're the ones that forsake God. I just really think about it, it's like God didn't forsake us. The reason it is God forsaken is because we turned our back. So I was just really thinking that we say that all the time, but God didn't do it. We did it. So that just really came into my mind when you said that today. So Hare Krishna.
Absolutely. Isn't it something, we are really, really quick and eager to blame everything on somebody else, anyone else. We don't even have to know them. Could anyone just take the blame for my miserable condition? I'm ready for it.
Damodar Priya.
Hare Krishna. I just really appreciated what you were sharing about the Bhagavad Gita. And since today is Gita Jayanti, I wanted to share something that I learned recently. Which I had never heard someone say before, was that they look to the Gita as kind of like looking up the date of your birthday, because since there's enough with the chapters and dates, so like you can look up, like for example, I was born April 7th, so 4/7, and like you can look. You've done that? Like I never had anybody share that with me before, and I feel like little gems like that, like those of you who grew up with these things, please share, because I got so excited to look up my birthday Gita verse, and then my husband's, and then he was like, or somebody else that was like, oh, well then you could probably look up like the day in the year and be like, what's the Gita verse for this day? And then look up what the day is. And I was just like, and I was like, whoa, like it's just, it's exciting that, as you said, like through the devotees, we can find even more ways to keep enthusiastic and excited about reading these holy scriptures and about engaging in service to Krishna. So thank you.
Yeah. My birthday verse is 5/7. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled.
Nice. Thank you for bringing this up, Damodar Priya. We want everyone to put their verse and their name in the
Yeah.
chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can do matchmaking. You I'm joking. Okay, who wants to go next? Questions, reflections? Bruce Prabhu. Unmute, Bruce Prabhu.
My apologies. Thank you for a beautiful class. I was leaving the Bhakti Center last night, and there was a young lady on all fours digging through her purse. She had her phone. She was all discombobulated, severely intoxicated, and just a mess. And her friends were just two of her friends were just standing there looking at her in a similar gaze, like just out of their minds. And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm so blessed to have had the night that I had of Seva at the Bhakti Center versus a night in a bar, just drinking drink after drink to where I numb my mind to no end. And I went and uplifted my mind to the highest end. It was just such an interesting contrast. And then I thought, back to the compassion of devotee, I thought, like, what would it be like to grab her by the hand and when she sobered up and bring her into the Bhakti Center and let her have such an experience and perhaps no longer find herself on First Ave, in her beautiful clothes and all over the filth of the sidewalk. So I say that to say that I'm just super grateful for your association, all the Devotees Association, and the blessing I have to have found Bhakti. Hare Krishna.
Jai. And make no mistake about it, that was all of us, either literally or figuratively in some way. And the key is that everybody tells themselves that this is enjoyment. It's like, wait a second, but you don't feel good while you do it. You don't feel good after you do it. You don't feel good before you do it. That's why you do it. You don't feel good while you're like on all fours on the sidewalk, digging through like your purse, trying to figure out how to get home and all this stuff. Like, no one feels good at any point of this process. And yet we're all telling ourselves, but this is happiness.
Right.
And our spiritual masters come and they're like, you are not happy. Let me tell you what happiness is. And then we fight amongst ourselves about the different forms of how to find spiritual happiness.
Bruce Prabhu is very appreciative and surrendered to his service at the Bhakti Center. He even has a separate pair of pants to serve in Prasadam. This is how serious he is.
Yeah. I miss you there too. I miss you coming on Thursday nights. We all miss your association.
I'll be back. I'll be back. Damodar Priya has to go. We love you, Damodar Priya. We want you to learn your verse by heart. That was the Sunday school assignment this Gita Jayanti. All the kids are learning their verses. And we were learning Gaurangi's verse yesterday. It's so much fun. All the verses in the Gita it's like fortune telling, packaged in a wonderful form. A bona fide fortune telling.
Yeah.
Okay. So who wants to speak? Anybody in the temple room? By that I mean Adipusha Prabhu. We know that Krishna is wonderful, but please elaborate on that.
Hare Krishna. Such an awesome class. I mean, just superlative in every way. Very, very interesting, that principle that's illustrated here. That Krishna is so wonderful that we're able to, like the persons we heard about today, perceive other people's suffering, be concerned for other people's suffering, and Krishna is so wonderful. He's providing access for us to benefit others. And how Mataji was explaining how Srila Prabhupada was concerned for everyone. His compassion was limitless, is limitless, continues to be limitless and expanding. I can remember I was about 7 years old, and we had just moved to Long Island, and I was in a school that I hadn't got transferred to a school out there. It was a Catholic school, and there was a little girl who hurt her knee, and she was crying, and the cleaning lady, whose name was Mrs. Harness, she came running over and she knelt down, and she said to the little girl, she was consoling her about her pain, and then she said, when we're in pain, we can actually offer that to the Lord for the benefit of others who are suffering. And I was 7 years old, and I was just like, totally off my radar screen, no idea about being able to help other people like that. But this lady had enough faith. It's so beautiful.
I was like, in what? In what? Okay. How wonderful is Krishna? How wonderful is Adipurusha Prabhu?
Mr. Prabhupada.
Okay, Darshan time, turn on your cameras. Martine, thank you very much. Good to see you. And Mangi, Venetia. Whiskey Prabhu is somewhere around. There he is. You should put tilak on him, Venetia. Every Ekadashi. This was the class. Happy Ekadashi, everybody. Acyuta Gopi, thank you very much, as always, for being so steady, so surrendered. Thank you for helping us become less forsaken in Krishna. I don't know if I'm making sense. But yeah, thank you for giving us your association, everybody on this call. the humanity at large. Be kind and keep decorating New York City with your presence. Yes, thank you.